Would you ever consider investing in a hostel? Probably not on most people's radars. With that said, I spoke to Nathan St Cyr, who is one of the co-founders of Howzit Hostels, and he has really taken that industry and flipping it on its head. Nathan has a focus on experiences and creating an elevated experience for those younger travelers. This is not the hostels and backpacking that the horror movies out there in Europe. This is really about going to great places like Hawaii and focusing on community and great elevated experiences. If you want to learn more about how to invest in these unique opportunities, make sure you check out this conversation right here on Multifamily Insights. When you think you found a great deal, asking the right questions could be the difference in finding a stud or a dud. Listen, we've put together a new guide to help you out. It's called 7 Questions You Must Ask Before Investing in Apartments. Now, in this guide, you're going to learn how to uncover red flags, quickly identify underwriting risk, vet sponsors and team members, and confirm key assumptions. Now, this is a guide that's going to help you be a better investor, whether you're an active investor or you're a passive investor looking to partner with other operators. Asking better questions is the key to identifying great opportunities. So download this free guide. Go to our website, casmoncapital.com/7 questions. That's the number 7 questions. And you can access this free guide today. To make it easy on you, though, we've put a link in our show notes. So you go to the show notes, you can click that link and access the guide right now. This guide's going to help you make better investment choices, asking the right questions to build your portfolio. So be sure to download it today. Nathan St Cyr is one half of the owners and operators of Howzit Hostels, a growing brand of hostels based in the Hawaiian Islands. Now, within only 3 years of opening, Howzit Hostels won the 2024 award for the #1 small hostel in North America. They currently own 2 hostels with a combined bed count of approximately 140 beds, and their goal is to grow to 400 beds within the Hawaiian Islands and 4,000 beds in North America. Let's welcome to the show, Nathan St Cyr.
Yeah, pumped to be here. Let's go.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Listen, I went over your bio at a very, very high level. I'm super excited to chat with you, though. Why don't you give our listeners a little bit more context on your background?
Yeah, well, I think from a listener base, there's a lot of alignment here. Our journey in hospitality and building out this, we have a $30 million portfolio. We're building out this hospitality company with a big vision, big goal to hit a $400 million portfolio over the course of the next 10 years. But really, that actually started with the idea of, hey, let's go into the commercial space. Let's do something big. We got done completing in 2018 an apartment building multifamily educational course with Neil Bawa. And our journey really started with us going out and searching for our first apartment building. So although we had a shift and a pivot during that process, it really started with all of the fundamentals that I think your listeners really care about, and that's scaling generational wealth through commercial real estate and multifamily. But if we rewind to that moment when we went to look at our first, we actually, my business partner and I, we were working together, we were colleagues, and we had this big plan, and we went and called our first apartment building that we were going to look at. We wanted to start here in the Hawaiian Islands. We're from Hawaii, and we just felt more comfortable being in the islands versus, going and looking in the Midwest or what have you with some of the different strategies. We're like, let's just start by searching in our own backyard. And the first property that we called on, the agent said, "Oh man, I'm sorry, but the property just went under contract today. We're not going to show it." And we're like, "Oh man, we just missed it." But we picked up on something and we asked this question. We said, "What is this in the special comments where it says the property was previously being run as a hostel?" We're like, "What is that?" I didn't know. I've spent my entire adult life here in the Hawaiian Islands. I didn't even know what a hostel was. And my business partner had a massive amount of success with short-term rentals here on Maui, but with regulations and everything, that all got shut down and very, very quickly regarding the ability to scale. So when we looked at that comment, the real estate agent picked up on it and he's like, "Oh, these guys have some interest." So he started sending us all this information on hostels and how the US market was really lacking and how internationally it's come, this huge way. And we started looking at it and we're like, wow, the margins of my business partner Mike's short-term rentals versus the margins of what we were looking at with apartment buildings were just they were just so substantially different that we're like, is there a way? Is there a way that we could take that transient vacation rental, that short-term rental model, and find more approachable pieces of real estate than hotels? Because here in the Hawaiian Islands, here in Maui, there hadn't been a hotel that had traded for under $25 million in a decade. So the hotels weren't even on our radar, right? It didn't even seem like something that was possible. But really, that moment of searching for our first apartment building led us to where we are right now, and that's building out a pretty sick hostel brand.
Nathan, I love the background, man. You got a great story there. And it's something I know a lot of people can relate to, right? You started off with an intention of getting into multifamily, went through Neil Bauer's course. And from there, you're like, all right, great, let's go out. You put in your first offer, you just miss it. You see that note that the property was previously used as a hostel. And that led you down this educational process to say, okay, well, what exactly is a hostel? How do we do this? And then comparing that to what your partner was already doing in the short-term rental space, you were able to say, hey, you know what, there might be something here. Why don't we keep looking into this? And ultimately that led to the business you have today. For our listeners who don't know what a hostel is, for a long time, they may have thought it was just hotel spelled really weird. What exactly is a hostel, and how does that compare to, some of the other options in the hospitality space?
Yeah, I love it. Well, first of all, let's just deal with when most people in the US hear the word hostel, there is an absolute stigma. So let's address that right off the bat. Most people think, oh man, this is a dirty, cheap, nastiness. They'll revert back to, wasn't there that crazy movie, The Hostel? But the reality is, when we look at what a hostel is today, and we look at globally and internationally, hostels are really an opportunity that promote community, that promote people coming together to experience, with experiential travel being a huge movement in today's world. Hostels really promote that. But instead of somebody going and really isolating in a hotel room, it provides an opportunity for them to have a common space where they can gather with people. They can go and experience the area. And then there's models. Our rooms are broken into, you can rent by the bed in bunks, which is common in hostels. And we have a mix of private rooms where you can go and stay in a private room with a queen bed or what have you. So there's different types of sleeping accommodations within a hostel. But the central idea of the hostel is really bringing people together and experiencing the region. That's the real concept. It's a community-based opportunity.
I appreciate you sharing that, right? Community-based opportunities, some similarities to maybe bed and breakfast, but really it's different than being isolated in your hotel and kind of figuring out your own adventure. In this space, you really are more in a community. Maybe you're sharing a room, maybe you have a private room, but there are some communal spaces. So you get a chance to connect with other travelers and build some relationships along that journey. When I listen to you talk about this, you mentioned just maybe the stigma that many Americans may have when they hear the term hostel. For me, I certainly think of Europe. I certainly think of, that, recent college grad backpacking it through Europe and, staying super cheap and just, essentially being what Airbnb started out as, right? Just staying on a buddy's couch kind of situation. But you talked about, hey, that's not necessarily where hostels are or where they're at today, especially with where you're at when it comes to the experience. Can you just maybe illuminate a little bit more on what the hostel experience looks like for that American traveler?
Yeah. Well, first of all, if you were to go on and look at howzithostels.com, our website, or our Instagram, Howzit Hostels, you had this perception of a rundown backpacker's cheapest place to stay, and you went and looked at our website or our Instagram page, you'd be like, whoa, what? I mean, we have created a space that is, a swaggy boutique hotel feel. You go in and the common space is beautiful murals on the wall and pool tables and foosball tables and stages and an unbelievable community kitchen. And it's fully staffed, right? So we have at every corner, you're going to have staff, you're going to have guided activities, you're going to have, guided experiences, both off property and on property. So just first of all, from a visual and an actual quality standpoint, what most people may perceive as that backpackers hostel, we have really elevated. And I'll share with you this, that we didn't have any experience with hostels, and we believe that ultimately that's maybe one of the biggest benefits that we've had, not having experience, because what we brought to the table was, instead of so many hostel people that have come and looked at our hostel, they're like, wow, you guys aren't hostel guys. And it's like, no, we weren't hostel guys. We had our own standards. What we understood, though, is we understood people, and we understood that people are driven by, all of us share these 6 human emotional needs. All of us do, right? Whether it's, certainty or variety, or whether it's connection and love, whether it's significance, being important, all of these things that we understood drive people. If we could go and create this business model that understood that if we fulfilled those human emotional needs at every part of a guest journey, that it didn't really matter that we didn't have experience or really knew what the industry was. We were going to go and put all of our focus into that. Let's create this shared accommodation space, because we came at it from a business standpoint. How can we go and from a business standpoint go and change our lives and our family's lives forever from the investment side, but then do it by offering a product and service that thrives? And we really found that blend. Let's go execute at the highest level, the human experience, but then understand that we're onto something with the financials behind the financial viability behind this model.
Yeah, I love a couple of things you said. One was, you came into this not having that background, but that actually was an advantage because you didn't do what most other hostile investors would do, right? You came focused on the experience. And I love that because, I spent a lot of time in marketing. And when I first got into marketing, I was doing experiential marketing. So everything we did, it was about the customer experience, the client experience. And that was one thing that you could see a real response to. And when we talk about travel, that's the whole reason people travel, right? You travel to have an experience, to have a connection, to get away. So focusing on the experience as opposed to just being a box people put their stuff in or people lay their head after they have an experience, that makes a lot of sense as far as why you wanted to invest or create, your approach that way. The other thing that stands out to me, you got into this with the intention of investing in multifamily, but you had this competitive advantage being in a market like Hawaii where people want to travel. You recognize some of the barriers. Hotels are super expensive to buy. Maybe there wasn't as many multifamily deals, but you found this opportunity. And I want our listeners to take this insight away. Always look in your backyard first. And whatever strategy you're learning, whether it be from me, whether it be from Nathan, it may or may not work that well in your backyard. But there's something that does work well. And figure out if that's the strategy you want to try. And if not, and you like, something else you've heard from me, whether it be multifamily investing, syndication, certainly there are other markets where you can invest. And that's why we offer passive investing opportunities too. But for you, you had a unique advantage, and it took you a second to maybe realize that once you did, you were able to create something that others were not even doing. So I love the fact that you were able to take that creativity and put it to use. You mentioned not having that background, and you and your partner, from what I'm taking away, it sounds like this is your first real commercial real estate investment. What gave you the confidence and what gave you the skills and the tools to go out and do this deal, especially knowing you didn't have a hostile background, and especially knowing that, this was something that we weren't seeing that much of?
Yeah, well, first of all, both my business partner and I, we decided to do something together to go into that multifamily investing course because we both had a passion for real estate and creating wealth through there. But what we both had recognized through our own personal experiences, that investing in single family homes whether it be our long-term rentals or my business partner going long-term rentals and short-term rentals, or whether it was the ground-up development I did, or whatever it was, we recognized that there was limitations for what we wanted to accomplish in the long run, right? We want to create generational wealth. We want to go and switch that. We want to create both time freedom, financial freedom, but really also that long term, we want to create that generational wealth switch, and that we weren't going to do that at the scale in which we wanted to do it, investing in single family homes. And so that's the thing that propelled us into the concept of, all right, commercial real estate has this, and multifamily was a vehicle in which we really got to dig in and understand the fundamentals of how we could go and force equity. And that's what it really all became about is, hey, we understand now fundamentally how to go and pull levers. And it just so happens that hospitality as a business has more levers to pull. It's more dynamic. It really, which allows, that creates, you have to be an expert operator, right? Or hire an expert operator because it's a business or a product and service on its own. But because of that, what we started finding was the margins and our opportunity was actually significantly, they were much greater rewards than what we were looking at with the margins that we're seeing were very consistent in multifamily. And I think that in today's world, that's relevant where, we have the same challenges in underwriting hotels and underwriting hostels and underwriting hospitality assets as somebody that's in the multifamily space with where the interest rates have gone and all of that. However, when we look at that value add opportunity and the different levers that we can potentially pull, it provides us the ability to really have that greater upside if purchasing right on the front end. So, yeah.
No, Nathan, let's talk more about that because I want to make sure people are following what you're saying, right? So with multifamily investing and pretty much any investment, there's only so many levers you can pull, right? If I buy a multifamily property, I can renovate units to increase rents. I can add other income line items, right? I can charge for internet. I can charge for trash removal. I can, do various things there. But there's a ceiling for sure of how much I'm going to be to get out of a property. When you're underwriting hospitality, you're saying, hey, it's very similar, right? There's a ceiling on these things. However, that's just the real estate. There's also a business where there's maybe, what I think I'm hearing you say is there are other levers that you can pull. And that is where you can create value above and beyond just what the physical property can offer. Because certainly there's a threshold of what you can charge on a room per night basis, right? Or bed per night basis. But this is a business where you have other levers. Can you maybe just dig a little bit deeper on some of the other levers, and other ways that you're creating value in the hostel space?
Yeah, well, let's start fundamentally with a multifamily, right? You go and you look at, all right, well, if I'm gonna pull the levers, really I'm looking at what's my NOI, right? So I can either increase the top line revenue from where it is, right? Or I can go and decrease costs and expenses. And those are the things that you're playing with. And those are the exact same things that we're playing with as well. So that's the exact parallel. But with multifamily, it's a little more simple. You look at the room and you're like, all right, well, this is a B class property or a C class property. And what can I do to go and decrease expenses for that room? Or, hey, typically it's a $900 per month rental. And I feel like by pulling these different levers, by making it nicer, by adding the playground, by putting money, capital expense, I can go and turn that into an $1,150 room, right? So $1,150 per month room, unit. Well, we're doing the exact same thing with hospitality, but what we're looking at, and more specifically with our hostel model, is we'll go in and we'll look at the room that previously may have been economy based and it rented for an economy $100 a night. But then we go, but wait a minute, that's $100 a night with one bed, one person, or sleeps two people. If we go in with that exact same space, right? Same room, same space, but we go in and that can fit 6 bunk beds, 3 bunks or 6 beds at $50 a night. We just took that from an average daily nightly rate of $100 to an average daily rate of $300. We just 3x'd the ADR, that average day, just by a room configuration change. The second thing that we recognized with this business model is that with a hotel, that one bed, if you're running it as a hotel, you only have one choice. That bed is either renting at 100% occupancy because somebody's renting it, or it's not rented and it's 0% occupancy. But with our hostel model, we have 6 beds in there and we don't have to sit at 0% or 100%. If we're not at 100%, we could be sitting at 50% or 66% or whatever it is. So both by average daily rate and by occupancy, we have the ability just in room configuration to 3x the revenue or that top line number that that property was bringing in.
Yeah, that's really helpful to understand the flexibility you create. And we're starting to see a little bit of that in the co-living space as well in real estate, not so much in multifamily specifically, but I know of a number of folks given the different markets where you're taking a property, renting them by the bed, and now you have a little bit more control where it's not 100% occupied and 100% vacant. You could be,
I
you have 3 of the 4 rented in. It gives you a lot more flexibility there.
I love that you brought this up. And one of the reasons that I love that you brought this up is because, when we look at our avatar, when you're going to go and do something different, right? We pivoted. We went to a path unknown. But I think one of the things that's really important is when you make a shift, one of the things that you need to know is, who's my avatar? Like, because if you know who your avatar is and you identify, okay, this is who I'm marketing to, and then you go all into that and you can get very focused, that's where really unbelievable things can happen. And our avatar, what we've learned is that what I perceive a hostel as is very, very different than what a 20-year-old, their mindset is very, very different, right? They've grown up in a world, Gen Z, they've grown up in a world that is all about shared resources. They grew up in a world where, they've just experienced Uber their entire life. I mean, I remember when Uber came out and I'm like, there is no way I'm getting in some other dude's car. Like, that's his personal, I'm not getting in his car. Like, no way. But then as time went on, now it's like anywhere I ever go, it's like, oh, I'm just Uber, right? It's like, but they didn't have to go through that overcoming of the perception that they already have. So with co-living spaces, with with all of the Uber shared resources for Gen Z, the hostel model is actually, in their eyes, it's not this thing that has this really negative stigma, because it's actually what they want. They crave, because they're in technology all the time. They're craving human connection when they go somewhere. They want to do things together, and then they want to be able to show it. So our whole goal is to create unbelievable experiences that are Instagrammable, that are TikTokable, right? So when they're going through it, we already know, oh my gosh, at this waterfall, this is where we're going to get them to do their jump off the waterfall here. We'll take, and then all of a sudden it's free marketing, right? And they're pumped and they're like, not only did I do it, not only did I connect with people, but I also get to show it. So everything that we've done, we've really shaped around this concept of understanding who our avatar is.
You hit on 3 major trends, especially with the younger traveler. But you talked about, one, they're craving connections. The second thing is they're craving experiences, right? Something that's unique, something that allows them to stand out and feel a sense of purpose. And then the last is social currency. Obviously, this is something where if you can capture it, you can share with others, that's going to go a long way. And the best example I have, well, it's one where we went to LA with my boys a couple years back, and we stayed at, a really nice, 4-star hotel. And then we also stayed at this really small to me hotel, but it's called Magic Castle Hotel, thanks for the name. And it's actually like the number 2 rated hotel in LA. And it's like a 1960s converted apartment building. The room is absolutely nothing special at all, right? It's literally like a 2-bedroom apartment building. But when you go there, there's no fees. Like whatever they charge you, that's what they charge you. They have free candy. My kids loved it. They could go up and get a huge, like king size Hershey Kiss bar or whatever, right? And they had a red phone by the pool and you could pick up the handle and someone would come and bring everybody at the pool popsicles. My kids absolutely loved it, right? I stayed at a much nicer 4-star hotel that was probably 2 or 3 times the amount of money per night as that spot. It was just another box to my kids, right? Like,
Yep.
it's just another hotel. There was no experience for them, right? Yes, it was nice. Yes, the decor was pretty. Yes, the bed was soft, but there was no experience. And I think it's really, really important, especially for that younger demographic, to recognize like that's what they're looking for. They're looking for the connections. They're looking for the experiences. While some of us may see luxury, as staying at the Ritz-Carlton or something like that, for this younger group, they're really craving those experiences when they travel. And I think you've absolutely tapped into it. I've got to ask this question before we kind of transition here. This is a big bet, and I know your partner had the or the short-term rental background, but how did you get clear on the financials and just the business plan or the execution of the business plan? And what advice would you give to someone else who is looking to invest, maybe not so much in multifamily, but in a different asset class? And it's more of an idea and a concept than something that's proven out over a course of time or with different investors.
Yeah. Well, so first of all, I think that number one, we were utilizing our own financial resources, right? So in the beginning, when we were using our own resources, we could make this bet on ourselves. We were betting on ourselves. And look, we have experience, right? We have a lifetime of experience, but we also we really came out of I came out of sales leadership. My business partner was a colleague of mine. I recruited him. He was on my team, so we had a ton of trust in each other. But we developed, skills. For me, it was vision, proving the impossible constantly. Understanding that rejection is temporary and is just something that you go through to have success. So developing and stacking those skills, the team building skills. For me, I've recognized my entire career. I've maybe for over a decade was the best in the world at something in a $20 billion industry, and it wasn't because of me. It was because of my understanding that when you go and figure out that it's who, not how, and you find the right who's that can execute things at an extremely high level, that's really where special things happen. And that's what we did. We took all these skills that we already had, that we'd been developing throughout our career and in real estate investing. And then because we had we were backing ourselves, we were able to bet on ourselves. And here's the real key there, though, is that we took a lot of time with this, right? We dug in and we looked at it in a lot of different ways. We went and hired experts. So we went and found a European hostel consultant. And so we really dug into this. My business partner is excellent at finding who's the best. Our hostel was designed by a group out of Denver that designed the Denver Moxie, which was, and they just bought into our story. We didn't think he found them in a magazine. Like, they took us on, right? But we find experts that can really back up, first of all, what our thought and our vision is, and then we verify it through experts. But then the second part of that is, then it comes down to, being passionate, making sure that this thing that you found is something that you're willing to go all in on. Dabbling isn't going to work with a new idea. It's not like, oh, well, let's just try it out. Let's just see how it goes. It's like, when you get to that point where the rubber hits the road, you got to be all in, because if you're all in, that's when you're going to make it. That's when you can fail a whole bunch of times, but at the same time, it's not failing. You're just getting one step closer to the success part of it. And that's what we found. I mean, the first property that we purchased, we we still own it today. It's a commercial mixed use property, but we bought it to convert. Didn't work. I mean, anything and everything that went wrong that we thought was going to happen. But if we would have just stopped there, then we this unbelievable vision would have never come to life. But we didn't. We didn't let the first property, we didn't let that prevent us from really doing then ultimately what we saw as this opportunity, because we believed, we knew, and we were just going to persevere through it.
Nathan, I love everything you just said. A couple of things, and really, really important. Have passion in your idea, in your vision, and carry it through. Do not let the first bump in the road deter you from that vision. And that happens to so many investors. I mean, every investor at some point, you're going to have a deal not go according to plan. And if that's enough to have you pull away and decide this is not for you, then you're not passionate enough about it. And just be honest with yourself. But if you love it, learn from that mistake or that lesson and make the adjustments so that you can see success. The second thing you said that really jumped out to me was finding the experts, mentors, coaches, consultants. Find the folks who are already doing what you want to do at a high level, bring them in. And you talked about having them validate your ideas. And I think that's a subtle but very important thing, right? Especially if you're doing something that others haven't done or you haven't seen done in a certain way. You can have the greatest idea in the world. If you're asking your brother or your friend from school, they're just going to see the problems, right? They're going to shoot it down immediately because they're like, oh man, you're going to lose your head, or have you thought about that or what? And they'll create that doubt. But when you have a great idea and you throw it to someone who has executed on great ideas, they're going to be able to tell you, hey, that sounds great. I love this. I love that. This might be a challenge, but there might be some ways to overcome that. And now you're working with people who can help you actually shape up that idea. And it's really important to watch who you get feedback from, and talking to those people who can help formulate that idea and create that idea is a great way to see growth. I love exactly what you said. And it's clear how you've been able to grow and scale this business. And I love everything you've talked about there. For folks that want to learn more, you've got a whole podcast on this space, man. I love it. So check out the Hotel Investor Playbook. It's a great podcast with you and your partner, Michael, where you get into a lot of the different ideas and tactics to not just invest in hotels and hostels, but really in that hospitality space. One little thing before we go to a round of insights, one of the biggest differences between multifamily and hospitality is the business, right? It's the staff, it's the employees. A multifamily, you pretty much have your property manager, you have your maintenance techs, you have your leasing folks, but really three buckets of types of employees that you're hiring. In your world, though, you've got a lot more, right? In the hospitality space. Can you just talk a little bit more about, your experience, best practices, both finding and managing talent in the hospitality world?
Yeah, well, first of all, I love this topic because for us specifically, we have a full staff model, which is really been about team building. And that is a differentiator in our company versus others, right? But I also want to say that one of the best parts about hospitality is, number one, you mentioned the passion piece. We call it the passionate asset class, because I think it allows people that are investing, that want to be able to scale and create that generational wealth. It allows them to be investing and go all into something that they are really passionate about. So that doesn't, it's hospitality, it's experience, it's life, it's all of those things. Now, they don't always have the expertise, like you're saying. Well, wait a minute, there's a business to be run here, right? But there are different models. And this is a really, really exciting part, is that today with technology, with AI, with these different models that focus on, there's a ton of different strategies, but some of the models actually, you'll have less staff than you do at a multifamily property, right? There's staff light, remote check-in models that are really technology based. Then you have others that are like, well, look, I'm not an expert, but I want to have a full staff model. And that's where you get to, in hospitality, because it's an actual business, there are expert property managers. And we had, Brian Tuba on one of our podcasts, that's what he does, right? He is an expert property manager for hotels. He can run brands, independents. So whatever your vision is, there are also experts that can come in and run the business, because hospitality really is a business. So you don't necessarily have to be the expert operator in hospitality. You need to be able to understand the fundamentals and be able to hire and partner with the right fit. And so, although it may seem overwhelming from the outside, like I know nothing about how to build a team or run, how do I do housekeeping? How do I get the rooms changed? How do I, blah? Well, you don't necessarily need to know that. Now, you have to have mentors, and that's what we do, right? On the Hotel Investor Playbook is we help people find resources that are out there to give them the confidence to go and make this shift. But at the end of the day, when you're passionate about what you're trying to accomplish, you're much more likely to end up succeeding.
Nathan, great feedback. Love that perspective and very helpful for us and our listeners. Again, if you want to learn more, check out the podcast, right? It's the Hotel Investor Playbook podcast, available anywhere you listen to podcasts. Right now, we're going to transition to our round of insights. They say you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you want to grow as a multifamily investor, you have to spend more time with other multifamily investors. And an easy way to do that is to join our apartment investing mastermind group today. Just go to casmoncapital.com and click on the mastermind button. Now, as a part of this group, you'll get access to expert trainings, group coaching calls, industry news and updates, as well as all of our webinars and workshops, including our 3-hour workshop on raising capital. Again, if you want to be around other multifamily investors that can help you scale your portfolio today and grow your network, make sure you're a part of the Apartment Investing Mastermind. Just go to casmoncapital.com and click on the Mastermind button today. Nathan, give me a failure or an apparent failure that sets you up for later success.
Well, I'll just start with, my sales career. I mean, my sales career, I read a book that said that salespeople were not, they weren't born, it was learned. And I was like, okay, I can do this. And then I went into it and I failed over and over. I was on specific performance in different sales jobs, like just over and over. But I just had this belief that, look, if I get in enough reps and I can figure this out. I had enough belief. My belief in myself was stronger than the results that I was currently gaining. And so I knew unequivocally that because I had the right mindset, that would tip at some point. And that lesson translates into absolutely everything, whether it was the property that we purchased that went wrong, whether it was lending challenges that we've had, all of those things along the way have made me recognize that, belief, perseverance, and persistence, they will overcome. And so that's one of the biggest lessons that I've learned, and I'm grateful for my sales career for that.
Give me a digital or mobile resource you recommend for your business.
Social Wi-Fi. So social Wi-Fi would be it's a unique way when guests come and check in that we're able to accomplish 2 things. The first thing that we're able to accomplish is they provide their email to have access to our wireless, which is somewhat common. But the second thing that it does is it sends out mid-stay, it sends out a how is your stay, and there's a rating, and then they can leave comments. And what this does is if they leave a 5-star rating, it automatically provides them a prompt to leave a Google review. If it's under that, then we get that internally, our internal team does, and we have the opportunity then to go, there's something that's not going right here. Let's take a negative experience and let's turn it into a positive. And we're able to do that before they go out there on their own and leave a poor review. So it's been one of those little hacks that we've learned that's been really successful.
I love that. Sounds like a great app to use for any hospitality or service-based industry for sure. All right, give me the book you've recommended or gifted the most in the last year.
Oof. Well, Psycho-Cybernetics. Psycho-Cybernetics would be the one that I've recommended the most. And although it has a name that I would never ever pick up and read the book because of the name. Really, it's a mindset book, and it's a book that focuses on our subconscious mind and how we can actually use this unbelievable powerhouse that each of us has, how we can understand what it was designed for, and therefore how we can really get it pointed in the right direction to help us solve challenges and really accomplish our goals. So don't let the name throw you off. It is an unbelievable book and can change your life without question.
What's a daily habit that helps you stay focused on your goals?
Meditation. So meditation and visualization is something that I do in the morning and in the evenings every single day. I'll habit stack. My mind is a wanderer, so I've also learned to have guided meditations that can help me through it. I'll stack it while I'm in a sauna, so I'm doing something while I'm healthy. But I believe that 80% of success is mindset and 20% is execution. But what I see most people doing, most people invest all of their time into the how and into the execution and the strategy. But where they miss is that 80% of it's going to come from the mindset. 20% of it will get figured out when you have the mindset right.
I love it. Give me your number one insight for running a successful hostel.
Culture is the most important thing. Really building culture in anything that you do from a business standpoint, whether it's just creating a real estate company, a hostel, hospitality asset, that it's really about who, not how. And if you create a culture in which the right who's want to live and work, that's where the greatest level of success comes from.
All right, you are out there near Maui in Hawaii. Give us your favorite place to grab a bite to eat.
Ooh, Nuka on Maui. It's a little sushi restaurant on the North Shore in Haiku, and got to get there early. The lines can be long, but absolutely guaranteed it is freaking unbelievable. Nuka.
Nuka sounds like a great place, man. Nathan, great information. Really enjoyed our conversation and hearing about your journey, right? Starting out completely focused on multifamily. That first deal you put an offer on, saw that little footnote about hostels, and that took you down a completely different path. You and your partner ended up buying some hostels, now $30 million worth of hostels, with your goal to continue to grow and expand that, hosting your podcast, the Hotel Investor Playbook. And I think my big takeaway is really just understanding a couple of things. One, having that passion in what you're trying to do, recognizing that it may not work out and probably will not all work out the first times or the first couple of times. You're going to run into some challenges, but that passion and that focus is going to help you overcome those. But then also relying on those experts, align yourself with mentors, with coaches, with designers, with folks who have been where you're trying to go. That's going to make it so much easier. It's going to help you validate your ideas and give you the feedback you need to be successful in the long run. Again, folks can check out your podcast. We'll make sure we put a link to that in the show notes. Nathan, I want to thank you again for being a great guest and coming on Multifamily Insights. We look forward to staying in touch with you, and I hope you have a great day.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's a blast.